Ethan, a 13-year-old boy from the small town of Springfield, Missouri, stood on the sidewalk outside a modest jewelry store. His fingers clutched tightly at the handful of crumpled bills and coins in his pocket, and his heart raced with a mix of excitement and nerves. This moment was the culmination of weeks of effort, planning, and determination. For Ethan, today was no ordinary day. It was the day he would finally buy his mom the birthday gift she deserved. Saving the money hadn't been easy, but Ethan was no stranger to hard work. He had mowed lawns all across his neighborhood, even in the blistering summer heat, pushing the old mower back and forth until sweat dripped down his face. He had skipped after-school snacks, no matter how hungry he felt, because every dollar counted. He had even taken on small jobs for neighbors, like walking their dogs, weeding their gardens, and running errands. Sometimes, they'd pay him a few dollars. Other times, it was just coins. Every little bit added up. He had watched his savings grow slowly, one coin at a time, keeping it all carefully tucked away in a small jar under his bed. Each night, he'd shake the jar lightly, listening to the satisfying jingle of the coins, imagining the day he could finally use it. That day had arrived. But this gift wasn't just about the money. It was about showing his mom how much he appreciated her. She was his hero, always working tirelessly to give him the best life she could. She worked long shifts at a local diner, often coming home late at night, her face weary but her smile intact. She made sure he had everything he needed for school, packed his lunches with love, and still found time to ask him about his day. He saw the sacrifices she made, even if she never spoke about them. Ethan knew his mom didn't expect anything from him. She never asked for much, but he wanted to surprise her with something special, something that would make her feel loved and cherished. This gift, though small, was his way of saying, "Thank you, Mom. I see all that you do for me, and I love you." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm, golden light over the streets of Springfield, Ethan took a deep breath and stepped toward the jewelry store. It was a modest little shop, tucked between a bakery that always smelled of fresh bread and a thrift store with faded clothing displayed in the window. The jewelry store's simple glass sign read, "Elliot's Jewelry," in delicate script. It wasn't the kind of place you'd expect to find anything extravagant, but for Ethan, it was perfect. He hesitated for a moment, his hand hovering over the door handle, before mustering the courage to push it open. A small bell chimed softly as he entered, and the sound seemed to echo in the quiet space. Inside, the store was cozy and inviting. Rows of glass displays lined the walls, their contents sparkling under soft overhead lights. Behind the counter stood the shopkeeper, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes, who looked up and gave Ethan a gentle nod of acknowledgement. Ethan felt his nerves settle slightly as he began to browse. His mom wasn't someone who wore much jewelry, but he wanted to find something that suited her, something simple yet meaningful. He walked slowly past the cases, scanning each piece carefully. Rings with tiny gemstones, necklaces that shimmered, and earrings that dangled gracefully. It was all beautiful, but none of it felt right. Then, on the second shelf, he saw it, a delicate silver bracelet with a single heart-shaped charm. It wasn't flashy or over the top. It had a quiet elegance that reminded him of his mom, graceful, understated, and warm. The thin silver band looked sturdy yet light, and the small heart charm seemed to almost glow under the light. Ethan's breath caught as he imagined his mom wearing it. He pictured her sitting on the porch after a long day, sipping her coffee, the bracelet catching the fading sunlight as she smiled to herself. It was perfect. Carefully, he picked up the bracelet from the display and turned it over in his hands. The silver felt cool against his fingers, and he admired how delicate it was. Finally, he flipped the tag to check the price. His heart skipped a beat. It was close, closer than he had hoped. Ethan quickly pulled out the money he had saved, counting it in his head. A wave of relief washed over him as he realized he had just enough. He'd worked so hard to reach this moment, and now, it was within his grasp. With trembling hands, he approached the counter and placed the bracelet down. The shopkeeper gave him a warm smile and began to ring it up. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled bills and coins, carefully laying them out on the counter one by one. His hands shook slightly as he counted, a mix of excitement and nerves bubbling inside him. And that's when the unexpected happened. The bell over the door jingled again, louder this time, and heavy footsteps filled the quiet store. The shopkeeper glanced toward the door, his eyebrows raising slightly in recognition. Ethan turned to see who had entered, and his heart nearly stopped. A tall man in a casual hoodie and jeans strolled in, his presence commanding yet relaxed. It took Ethan a moment to realize who he was looking at: Elon Musk, the man he'd seen on the news and in videos online. What was he doing here? In a small jewelry store in Springfield. Of all places? The shopkeeper froze for a split second, his professional composure faltering before he recovered, offering Musk a polite nod and smile. For Ethan, however, it felt as though the world had tilted on its axis. What was Elon Musk doing here? Why would someone like him step into this humble store in the middle of nowhere? Ethan blinked, half convinced he was imagining things. Afternoon, Musk said casually, his voice even and warm as he acknowledged the shopkeeper with a brief nod. He glanced around the store, his eyes sweeping over the displays with the air of someone who was merely browsing. But there was an unmistakable energy in the room now, a quiet hum of anticipation, as if everyone present was waiting for the extraordinary to unfold. Ethan tried to focus on the task at hand, turning back toward the counter and resuming his count. His fingers trembled as he laid the bills and coins out in neat piles, one by one, but his attention was divided, his thoughts racing. Then Musk's voice cut through the quiet, startling him. "Nice bracelet." Ethan's heart jumped, and he looked up, meeting Musk's curious gaze. The man had taken a step closer, his eyes on the small piece of jewelry in Ethan's hands. Thanks," Ethan mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. "Who's it for?" Musk asked, tilting his head slightly, his tone friendly and inviting. Ethan hesitated, glancing at the shopkeeper as if seeking silent permission to answer. The older man gave him an encouraging nod, and Ethan finally spoke. "It's for my mom. Her birthday is tomorrow. She works really hard, and I wanted to get her something nice." Musk's expression softened, and for a moment, he simply studied Ethan, as though trying to understand the full weight of the boy's words. "That's thoughtful of you," he said finally, his voice quieter now. "What made you pick this one?" Ethan glanced down at the bracelet, his cheeks flushing slightly. "It's simple but elegant. She doesn't wear much jewelry, but I think she'll like it. I want her to know I notice how much she does for me." For a moment, Musk said nothing. His gaze lingered on Ethan, a mixture of admiration and curiosity flickering in his eyes. Then, a small smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "How old are you?" he asked, his tone light but genuinely intrigued. 13. Ethan replied, gripping the bracelet like a lifeline. Musk chuckled softly. 13. And you're already saving up for something like this? Most kids your age would be spending their money on video games or sneakers. Ethan shrugged, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "My mom's been through a lot. She works long hours at the diner and always makes sure I have everything I need, even when it's not easy for her. I wanted to give her something special, for once." Musk tilted his head slightly, his expression shifting to something almost contemplative. "Sounds like you've got a good head on your shoulders," he said. "Not every kid thinks like that." Ethan blinked, his eyes widening in surprise. "How do you know my name?" he asked, caught off guard. Musk pointed to the small name tag pinned to Ethan's jacket from a school event. "It's right there." "Kid," he said with a grin, breaking the tension. Ethan let out a nervous laugh, relaxing just a little. Musk glanced at the bracelet again and then turned to the shopkeeper. "How much is it?" $56, the shopkeeper replied, glancing at the money Ethan had carefully arranged on the counter. "He's got it all here." Musk raised an eyebrow, a flicker of amusement crossing his face. $56. Huh. He paused, then turned back to Ethan. "You mind if I help out a little?" Ethan's jaw dropped. "Wait, what? You don't have to do that," he stammered, his voice breaking with surprise. His hands tightened instinctively around the bracelet, as though he feared it might suddenly vanish. Musk smiled warmly, waving off Ethan's protest with a casual flick of his hand. "I know I don't have to, but I want to. Let's just say I like what you're doing here. It's a good reminder of what really matters." Before Ethan could fully grasp the situation, Musk reached into the pocket of his hoodie and pulled out a sleek black wallet. With the ease of someone who didn't think twice about generosity, he handed the shopkeeper a crisp $100 bill. "Keep the change," Musk said, giving the older man a nod of appreciation. The shopkeeper, though visibly startled, recovered quickly and offered Musk a grateful smile. "Of course, sir. Thank you." He took the bill and carefully placed it in the cash register, still glancing at Ethan as if to reassure the boy that this moment was real. Ethan, however, remained frozen in place. the bracelet still cradled in his hand. His mind raced to catch up with what had just happened. I don't know what to say, he finally whispered, his wide eyes darting between Musk and the shopkeeper. Musk crouched slightly, meeting Ethan's gaze with a sincerity that seemed to quiet the chaos in the boy's mind. You don't have to say anything, Musk said softly, his tone steady and reassuring. Just make sure your mom has a great birthday. Okay. Ethan nodded slowly, still overwhelmed by the whirlwind of emotions. But as he looked at Musk, he caught something in the man's expression, a quiet encouragement, a look that seemed to say, this moment isn't just about the bracelet. It's about something bigger. A warm sense of gratitude began to settle over Ethan. Thank you, he managed to say, his voice trembling but genuine. Musk stood back up, brushing his hands against his jeans, and smiled. You're welcome, Ethan. But just as Ethan thought this extraordinary moment might be coming to an end, Musk glanced at him again, his eyes sparking with curiosity. By the way, Musk said casually, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was a simple question on the surface, but it carried a weight that Ethan couldn't quite explain. Something about the way Musk asked it made it feel like more than idle small talk. And though Ethan didn't realize it yet, this one question was about to turn an already unforgettable day into something life-changing. The question threw Ethan off guard. He blinked, unsure how to respond. People didn't usually ask things like that, especially not to a kid like him. I don't know, he stammered, fidgeting nervously with the edge of the bracelet box. I guess I'd like to do something that makes my mom proud. Maybe build something. Like you do. Musk's eyebrows lifted slightly, intrigued. Build something? Like what? Ethan hesitated, his thoughts coming together slowly. She always says she wishes we had a better house. Something where we don't have to fix things all the time. Maybe one day, I could make houses that don't fall apart so easily. Ones that people like us could actually afford. Musk leaned back, clearly impressed. Affordable, durable housing, he mused. That's a big idea. You know, a lot of people are out there trying to solve problems like that. But not everyone has the kind of perspective you do. Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. It's just something I've thought about. I don't know if I could actually do it. Musk's expression softened, and for a moment, the room seemed quieter, smaller, as if it were just the two of them in the world. Ethan, let me tell you something, Musk said, his voice calm but brimming with conviction. Every big idea starts with someone just like you, someone who sees a problem and thinks, maybe I can fix that. It doesn't matter how small you start. What matters is that you care enough to try. Ethan stared at him, the words settling deep into his mind like seeds being planted in fertile soil. No one had ever spoken to him like this before, as if he mattered, as if his dreams weren't just childish whims. Musk straightened, his trademark confidence returning. Tell you what, he said with a grin, I'm going to help you get started. Consider it an investment in your future. Ethan's eyes widened. What do you mean? Musk pulled out his phone and tapped on the screen for a moment before looking back at Ethan. Give me your mom's name and phone number, he said. I want to make sure you two have what you need to dream a little bigger. The shopkeeper watched silently, his kind eyes darting between the boy and the billionaire. Ethan hesitated, then slowly recited his mom's information, his voice barely above a whisper. All right, Musk said, sliding his phone back into his pocket. I'll be in touch. For now, go make her birthday unforgettable. Ethan left the store with the bracelet, but also with something far greater, a spark of hope that the world could hold more for him than he had ever imagined. That evening, as Maria carefully unwrapped her birthday gift, her breath caught in her throat when she saw the delicate silver bracelet inside. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. She held it up, her eyes glossing over with tears. Ethan, this is too much, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She pulled him into a tight hug, almost not believing the gesture. Ethan swallowed, his heart beating faster as he hugged her back, feeling the weight of her words. I wanted to. Mom, he said softly, his voice steady, though the lump in his throat made it hard to speak. You deserve it. They sat down for dinner later, the cozy warmth of their small kitchen filling the space with comfort. But Maria's phone, lying innocently on the counter, buzzed loudly, breaking the stillness. She picked it up hesitantly, seeing the unfamiliar number. With a glance at Ethan, she answered, uncertainty in her voice. Hello? Hi, is this Maria? The voice on the other end was calm but had an undeniable authority, and something about it made her pause. Yes, This is Maria, she replied, her brow furrowing as she tried to place the voice. This is Elon Musk, came the answer, as if it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Maria froze. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp. Excuse me, she asked, stunned, looking over at Ethan, who was now staring at her with wide eyes. Musk chuckled, sensing her disbelief. I know this sounds crazy, but I met your son yesterday at the jewelry store. He told me about how hard you work and how much he looks up to you. I just wanted to let you know, you've raised an incredible son. Maria's chest tightened as his words sank in. She could barely find her voice. Thank you so much, she managed, her hand instinctively clutching the phone tighter, as if grounding herself in this surreal moment. Musk's voice softened slightly. Well, Ethan also mentioned a dream of his, building better homes for families like yours. It's a powerful idea, and I want to help make it a reality. Maria felt her breath catch, her world spinning for a second. She looked at Ethan, whose fork was frozen midair. Here's what I'm going to do, Musk continued, his tone matter of fact. I've arranged for your rent to be covered for the next year. And starting next week, Ethan will have a mentor who can guide him through design and engineering, help him get closer to his dreams. If you need anything else, just let me know. Maria couldn't stop the tears that flooded her eyes. Her hands trembled as she held the phone to her ear, still in shock. I don't know what to say, she stammered, her words barely audible. This is too much. Ethan, now standing, grabbed the phone from her, his heart racing. Mr. Musk, he said, his voice shaking with gratitude. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough. You already have. Ethan, Musk said with a warmth that made Ethan's heart swell. Just keep dreaming big. And remember where you came from. That's all the thanks I need. The call ended, leaving behind a silence so thick it felt like the world had shifted on its axis. The weight of Musk's words settled in, reshaping not just their lives but their perception of what could be possible. For the first time, Ethan understood that his dreams, once distant and intangible, were now within his grasp. That evening, as Maria carefully unwrapped her birthday gift, her breath caught in her throat when she saw the delicate silver bracelet inside. For a moment, everything seemed to pause. She held it up, her eyes glossing over with tears. Ethan, this is too much, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. She pulled him into a tight hug, almost not believing the gesture. Ethan swallowed, his heart beating faster as he hugged her back, feeling the weight of her words. I wanted to. Mom, he said softly, his voice steady, though the lump in his throat made it hard to speak. You deserve it. They sat down for dinner later, the cozy warmth of their small kitchen filling the space with comfort. But Maria's phone, lying innocently on the counter, buzzed loudly, breaking the stillness. She picked it up hesitantly, seeing the unfamiliar number. With a glance at Ethan, she answered, uncertainty in her voice. Pick. Hello? Hi, is this Maria? The voice on the other end was calm but had an undeniable authority, and something about it made her pause. Yes, this is Maria, she replied, her brow furrowing as she tried to place the voice. This is Elon Musk, came the answer, as if it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Maria froze. The phone nearly slipped from her grasp. Excuse me, she asked, stunned, looking over at Ethan, who was now staring at her with wide eyes. Musk chuckled, sensing her disbelief. I know this sounds crazy, but I met your son yesterday at the jewelry store. He told me about how hard you work and how much he looks up to you. I just wanted to let you know, you've raised an incredible son. Maria's chest tightened as his words sank in. She could barely find her voice. Thank you so much, she managed, her hand instinctively clutching the phone tighter, as if grounding herself in this surreal moment. Musk's voice softened slightly. Well, Ethan also mentioned a dream of his, building better homes for families like yours. It's a powerful idea, and I want to help make it a reality. Maria felt her breath catch, her world spinning for a second. She looked at Ethan, whose fork was frozen midair. Here's what I'm going to do, Musk continued, his tone matter of fact. I've arranged for your rent to be covered for the next year. And starting next week, Ethan will have a mentor who can guide him through design and engineering, help him get closer to his dreams. If you need anything else, just let me know. Maria couldn't stop the tears that flooded her eyes. Her hands trembled as she held the phone to her ear, still in shock. I don't know what to say, she stammered, her words barely audible. This is too much. Ethan, now standing, grabbed the phone from her, his heart racing. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice shaking with gratitude. "Thank you. I don't know how to thank you enough." "You already have, Ethan," Musk said with a warmth that made Ethan's heart swell. "Just keep dreaming big. And remember where you came from. That's all the thanks I need." The call ended, leaving behind a silence so thick it felt like the world had shifted on its axis. The weight of Musk's words settled in, reshaping not just their lives but their perception of what could be possible. For the first time, Ethan understood that his dreams, once distant and intangible, were now within his grasp. In the weeks that followed, Ethan's life was transformed in ways he never could have imagined. True to his word, Musk's team reached out, connecting him with a mentor named Darren, an engineer whose passion for innovative, affordable housing mirrored Musk's vision. Darren didn't just show Ethan the basics of design and construction. He respected Ethan's ideas as if they were the spark of something extraordinary. The way Darren encouraged him made Ethan feel like anything was possible. For Maria, life also took a dramatic turn. With her rent covered for the next year, she no longer had to juggle multiple jobs just to stay afloat. For the first time in years, she could breathe easy, allowing her to spend more time with Ethan. Together, they talked, laughed, and dreamed about the future, astonished by how one unexpected moment had flipped their world upside down. But this story didn't end with them. Word of Musk's unexpected kindness spread like wildfire, first through local papers, and eventually to national outlets. Reporters arrived at their door, eager to hear their story, not for the sake of fame, but to inspire others. "It's not just about what someone gave us," Maria told one reporter. "It's about how one simple act of kindness can remind you to believe in yourself and in the goodness of people." Meanwhile, Ethan was more determined than ever. He started sketching blueprints for the homes he'd always dreamed of building. His mentor encouraged him to think beyond what he knew, pushing him to explore even bigger ideas. Musk's team even helped Ethan present his designs at a community event, where people were in awe of his passion and creativity. The room was filled with energy, and soon, others started reaching out, offering support and resources to help bring Ethan's vision to life. The boy who had once been quiet and overlooked in Springfield was now a rising voice for change. His dreams, sparked by one simple act of kindness, had ignited something much larger than he had ever imagined. People from all walks of life, inspired by Ethan's determination, offered their help. Ethan and Maria's journey was only just beginning, but they carried with them the lesson Musk had shared that day. Every big idea starts with someone brave enough to dream. One evening, as Ethan and Maria sat on their porch, watching the sunset, Ethan turned to his mom and said, "Maybe someday I'll build houses for everyone who needs one." Maria smiled, resting her hand on his shoulder. "You already have the heart for it, Ethan. The rest will follow." If this story touched you, let it serve as a reminder of the power of generosity and dreams. Share it with someone who might need a little inspiration today. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate the goodness in the world. Let's keep spreading hope, one story at a time.